When I think about cycling, I don't think about the numbers or the stats of the riders. I truly don't care what Remco's watts per kilo is or how unaerodynamic Milan's sprint is. I want passion, I want heart, I want stories, and I want emotion. And there was one rider in the last decade that I could always count on for that: Thibaut Pinot. By tracing the highlights and lowlights of Pinot's career, it's apparent to see how his style won the hearts of so many cycling fans around the world, and why it hurt so much when his career turned out how it did. Pinot is currently 2 years into his professional career, riding for FDJ, a team he'd show immense loyalty to and stay with for his entire career. In the first 2 years of being a professional, he's shown great promise and climbing ability, winning summit finishes at multiple small races. Now, in 2012, Pinot is starting his first ever Tour de France, and he's the youngest rider in the peloton at just 22 years of age. He is briefly mentioned in previews for this year's tour as an outside favorite for the Best Young Rider jersey. Quote, Thibaut Pinot is not well known amongst the cycling pundits, but he has been quietly racking up promising performances and could well be the revelation of the 2012 Tour de France. On stage 8, a mountainous day, Pinot got in the breakaway. When Astana's Frederic Kessiakoff attacks a break, Pinot takes his time and begins the chase up to Kessiakoff. We, and the world at large, get to see Pinot in his element, the tall, skinny Frenchman on the move, not glancing down at his watts at any point, head up, pointed forward to where he wants to go. With 16.7 kilometers left, Pinot is approaching Kessiakoff, lifted by the French fans at the roadside, desperate for a win and for hope. See, it's been 26 years since a French rider has won the Tour, so now, whenever a rider shows even the slightest promise of going up a mountain quick, dreams of an overall win are conjured up, and the media pours on the pressure. For now, though, the only pressure on Pinot is to catch Kessiakoff. And when he gets to 16.5 to go, he does it and blows right past him. The young Frenchman is on a tear as throngs of fans cheer him on. One issue: there's still 16 kilometers to go. Second issue: the yellow jersey group with Bradley Wiggins is chasing and chasing hard. In the last 3.5 kilometers, Pinot only has 40 seconds in hand on flat roads, and it's getting desperately close. Pinot shows no signs of slowing down, and as he rips through the town center, with more fans absolutely losing their collective minds, he's kept the gap over 30 seconds with 2 kilometers left. All Pinot needs is a little more support, and that's when the team car pulls alongside. Marc Matteo, team manager, absolute madman, and full of passion, is leaning out of the car, yelling in support of Pinot as he possibly can, with every ounce of energy that a man can summon. This is the beauty of cycling, and French cycling in particular, the unbridled emotion for the sport. Inside the final kilometer, despite Cadel Evans' best efforts in the chase, Pinot has kept the gap over 25 seconds, and the celebration can begin. When the Tour finished in Paris, Pinot took home 10th overall. 1 year later, and hopes were high for Pinot to repeat with a stage win and a better overall finish. One issue: the weak point in Pinot's arsenal these days is descending. He was dropped on the final descent on the very first mountain stage of the race, losing 6 minutes by the finish. Quote, some people are afraid of spiders or snakes. I'm afraid of speed. It's a phobia. Pinot ended up dropping out of the Tour after 2 weeks with illness, and it felt like the honeymoon period and the spark of romance was already over. The thing about romance is that it's never truly dead. In a Tour decimated by injury, Chris Froome, shattering his wrist, paved the way for Vincenzo Nibali to easily win the overall. Pinot took 3rd overall and the Best Young Rider jersey. For Pinot, it was something that would be rare in his career: a Tour without major issues. Hopes were high that the young man had matured and was ready for the weight of a nation. He wasn't ready for the weight of France. His GC hopes in 2015 fell apart completely on stage 10. Team Sky broke everyone. An insane, unreal display of power. one that saw Pinot lose 10 minutes and caused the French to write off the Tour GC completely. Thing is, there was a lot more Tour to go, and Pinot still had something to fight for: pride. Stage 20 took the Tour to the most famous climb in the world, Alpe d'Huez. Pinot, now 40 minutes down the overall, is in third on the climb, and is currently getting dropped by Ryder Hagedal on the attack. But Pinot has not come so far today to only come so far. He gets back on Hagedal's wheel, and then counterattacks and gets a gap immediately. Pinot then catches the leader on the road, which, luckily enough, is his teammate. Now Pinot can get a bit of relief and get paced up the climb, but Hagedal joins back in as well. This simply won't do, so Pinot attacks, but the only victim is his own teammate. As they round the hairpins, the Frenchman and the Canadian are evenly matched. Well, at least until Hagedal attacks again, and until Pinot attacks again. But this time it sticks, much to the joy of the roadside fans. Now Pinot has daylight and just the road ahead of him to get to the finish line. No other concerns, right? Wrong. Behind Pinot, a last chance battle is taking place for the lead of the Tour de France as Nairo Quintana tries his damnedest to open up a gap on Chris Froome. With 2 kilometers left, Pinot only has 26 seconds in hand, and Quintana is closing quick. Pinot is grimacing, mouth agape, head bobbing, shoulders swaying, the very picture of human suffering. He keeps looking over his shoulder, fearing the tiny Colombian form of Quintana appearing. With 1 kilometer, the gap is 21 seconds, and Pinot battles all the way to the line and wins the stage. A redemption story, and one that makes the French believe again. Quote, "For the French, Alpe d'Huez is one of the pinnacles for a French rider. It was definitely a beautiful stage to win. I wanted to get to Paris with no regrets, and I've done that now by winning. Now, I can celebrate and hold my head high." New year, a new attempt at the Tour for Pinot. He had a great early season in 2016, and then at the Tour, it fell apart again. A bronchitis infection wrecked his form and forced him to quit the race after stage 12. Quote, "Since my abandonment at Le Tour, persistent tiredness due to a virus made me late in the preparation of the final month of competition. In accordance with FDJ, I prefer to put an end to my 2016 season, and I want to recharge my batteries to maximum." He also decided to do something else the next season in 2017. Quote, "I really want to do this Giro. There are 6 real uphill finishes and 2 real time trials. It quickly becomes spectacular, with a finish on Etna on the 4th day. I want to get back into the dynamics of a good general classification on a 3-week race. I have had 2 failures in the Tour de France from this point of view, or a failure and a half considering my victory at the Alpe d'Huez. Frankly, it would be great to break the routine, to test the climb like the Stelvio, which I still have never done." The change of scenery paid dividends for Pinot. He was one of the main protagonists at one of the greatest Grand Tours in the last 30 years. And if you want to know more, watch our Giro 17 series here. Maybe he prepared better this season, but more likely, a move to a country that he always had an affinity for, and one that gets less scrutiny from the French press, served him well. Whatever it truly was, it resulted in a stage win and a 4th place overall. So, in 2018, Pinot returned for another go-round at the Giro, and he was racing very, very well, until he tried to chase Froome during Froome's legendary move. You can also watch a video on that here. This doomed Pinot completely. The next day, he lost 45 minutes, coughing up his lungs at the finish line. Summit finish in Cervinia, the French climber collapsed. No one knows how long he was unconscious for, but the panic in the thin mountain air was real. His body temperature soared to 104 degrees Fahrenheit, and a dry cough made his eyes flutter. He was eventually taken away in an ambulance, which took over an hour to navigate through the crowded roads. He was battling pneumonia. Marie-Jeanne Pinot, his mother and a nurse, is clear on one thing. Quote, "I would like people to know how much Thibaut has exhausted himself throughout his career to do his sport and to make people happy." This is the thing about Pinot. He won't give up. Quote, "During the night, the illness worsened. Thibaut insisted on taking the start, but it was madness. He was third overall on the eve of the last stage, a circuit race in Rome. All his staff and all his teammates had worked for him, and he wanted to pay them back. Even though everyone told him to give up, to protect his health, he wanted to go all the way and finish the Giro. I need to drop whatever little illusion of journalism and impartiality that exists on this channel for a minute and tell you, I love Thibaut Pinot because of things like this. I had no issues with Pinot at all. Quote, none of your teammates regret the sacrifices, the efforts made to try to reach our objective. We would have signed on to support you for the same result as today. Our human adventure is worth a lot more than a podium. And his team manager, Marc Matteo, the madman who yelled out of the car 6 years ago, echoed the through line of Pinot's career. We win together and we lose together. We know that cycling is a hard sport, cruel and difficult. You have to accept the bad moments in order to live the moments of joy more intensely. A moment of joy did come at the tail end of 2018, when Pinot won his first and only monument, Lombardia, the hilly classic perfectly suited for him. Quote, among the monuments, Lombardia is the nicest in my mind. I've always wanted to win it. So, the moment of joy had come, but the moment of greatest heartbreak was still ahead. I need to take a second to steel myself for this part. Okay, it's 2019. Pinot has returned to the Tour de France to go for the yellow jersey, but in a liberated way. Quote, it's not an obsession. I live my life as it is at the moment. It's a life that I dream of, and if I win the Tour de France, I won't have this life anymore. Do I want to change my life? No. But, as the race went on, Pinot looked to be the strongest. Perhaps Julian Alaphilippe, bearing the burden of the yellow jersey and media pressure, also helped Pinot perform, taking a beautiful win atop the Tourmalet. After stage 18, Pinot was 5th overall, 1 minute and 50 seconds outside of the lead. But among the real contenders, all due respect for Alaphilippe, Pinot is right there with Bernal, Thomas, and Kruijswijk. Pinot is fully in the driver's seat, and stage 19 was going to be the hardest mountain stage of the tour, a golden opportunity. Okay, deep breath. 93.6 kilometers to go. The race has begun a second category climb, and Pinot is dropping back to his team car. This could be for any reason, and there's a lot of race to go, so I panic. Except it's not his team car. It's the medical car in front of it. He's gesturing to his thigh and is clearly in pain. The medical team reapplies a bandage of some sort, and no one knows what the issue really is, just that this is a crisis. He can barely pedal his bike and looks for the second team car. It arrives, and he talks to the group inside. The gruppetto passes him. Pinot comes to a stop so the team can remove the bandages on his mysterious injury. All that anyone is paying attention to right now is Pinot. He tries to keep battling on, but with tears streaming down his face, and on your face and mine, Thibaut Pinot abandons the Tour de France. Commentary says the most heartbreaking part.
Heartbreak for France. Heartbreak for Pinot, and Sean Kelly, he might never, ever get as good a chance as this.
This was from a muscle tear in the thigh, sustained from a barely memorable hit to the thigh 2 days ago. Quote, answers to the questions I was asking myself. For the first time since I was little, I no longer had the pressure of always thinking about the bike. Lockdown confirmed that I would enjoy life after cycling. Winning one more stage or race won't make any difference to my life or my career. There will be no reason to continue. There's another dimension to his retirement, one that I feel goes somewhat unmentioned. At the start of the 2021 season, Pinot expressed concern over the use of corticosteroids in professional cycling, and the ease with which riders could attain therapeutic use exemptions. He spoke from experience, having reluctantly received a cortisone injection during the off-season to treat a back injury. He was alarmed by its powerful effects. A few riders of Pinot's stature had ever spoken out so openly against doping practices, but his comments were met with little reaction from within the peloton. Quote, "No, there's no support, no call, nobody. I thought that I would be a little more supported, especially from the guys on my team. That's also why I can leave this milieu without regrets. I've often said what I thought. I wanted to help. I didn't get any feedback. So now, let me live my life." When asked why he chose to speak out, the answer was simple. Quote, "Because I needed that. It felt good to say what I thought. Sometimes it's hard to keep everything to yourself." That sums up Pinot very well. A romantic who wore his emotions largely on his sleeves, laying everything on the line, refusing to let down anyone who believed in him. That's why, in his final appearances, fans lined the roadside just for him, to make sure he knew how appreciated he was. Following the tour, where he went on the attack in his home region in front of a massive crowd, a moment that made me tear up. He arrived at his final race in Lombardia. Quote, "To be present at Lombardy is to bring a beautiful image to an end. We're here to celebrate. We're here together. It must remain a good and beautiful moment. We must live it like this." I think when Pinot finished his final race, where he almost came to a complete stop at one point due to all the fans, his final quotes to Cycling News were true Thibaut. Poetic, insightful, and heartbreaking. Quote, "I am embarrassed with all of it. I'm not sure I deserve it. I haven't won so many races in my career, but I think winning can even be boring. People want emotions, good or bad. They also know I'm like them, with the same hobbies and interests, the same fears, and the same emotions. Maybe French people do really like losers. I would never consider Pinot a loser. I can only ever see him as staggeringly human, a man that we should all strive to be more like, who never felt that he needed to hide who he was."